once loved all these CW shows. I gave up on them a few years back, but Crisis on Infinite Earths just had the draw, and I just had to watch. Episodes 1 through 3, what did I think? What did you think? Let's talk about it. Welcome to Durbania. I'm Durbin, and this is my spoiler talk review for Crisis on Infinite Earths parts 1 through 3. And you heard that, spoiler talk. So if you are not ready for Crisis on Infinite Earths spoilers, put this in your watch later and come back when you've watched those first 3 episodes because I will be spoiling this stuff. So kind of just a quick brief history of me and these CW shows. For me, it's Smallville. I love Smallville. But I also kind of have this love-hate relationship with Smallville because when Smallville was great, it was great. But when Smallville went bad, oh yeah, it went really, really bad. But as a whole, I really enjoyed the show. But I have to say, the show kind of exhausted me. It exhausted me with the soap opera relationship teen drama that I couldn't stand it. They wanted me to care so avidly about Clark and Lana was just so annoyingly self-entitled. Every dang time she opened her mouth, I couldn't stand it. Plus, you know, he ends up with Lois. I mean, just stop trying to convince me of this. Have a little bit of fun with it because, yes, it's part of the comics, but he ends up with Lois. This is not the epic destiny be-all, end-all. Point is, it drove me nuts. And every time Clark had to take 10 great steps forward and became closer to becoming Superman, but because they couldn't cancel the show because it was so popular, you know, they had to give him another 12 massive steps back, you know, where everybody had to hold his hand and walk him through it. It drove me nuts. So the kind of soap opera drama and all that kind of drama just made me go crazy. But I loved Arrow and Flash when they first started. And one of the things I loved about Arrow is, yeah, there was some of that soap opera relationally drama, but the first 2 seasons were so like Batman Begins and dark and gritty and awesome and you have failed this city. I loved seasons 1 and 2. Flash, I liked the first 3 seasons. I enjoyed the contrast between gritty Arrow and, you know, the happy, fun, lighthearted Barry Allen on Flash. Like, I enjoyed those 2 tones, but I enjoyed they were on the same Earth in the same universe. So that made it kind of fun. Never really got into Legends, and I only liked Supergirl when it was owned by CBS. So that's kind of just my brief history, and then I kind of gave up because it did keep going right back to that relational drama. You know, when Flash started doing really good, so they tried to infuse some of that light into Arrow. When they had to focus on Team Arrow and all of that stuff, it really began to lose me on a lot of levels. But that's another story for another time. The point is I quit watching altogether. And so what drew me back in for Crisis on Infinite Earths, I mean, it's what any comic book nerd would want. The Crisis on Infinite Earths and seeing the interaction with all of these other great live action superheroes and just paying honor and tribute and interacting with their universes. Like, all of that is just so fun, and it just drew me in from that first preview, from that first look. I was like, yeah, I'm in for that. Brandon Routh returning as his Superman Returns Superman, but now it's like a Kingdom Come Superman. Yeah, you sign me up for that. Tom Welling announcing that he was going to be in it. Smallville fan, I'm there. I'm going to see what has this Clark Kent been up to. So how did these first 3 episodes of Crisis on Infinite Earths stand out for me? I thought they were pretty good. I don't know. I'd give it a B-. It's above average, but it's still a little low for me. What I do like is because I quit watching the shows, and I'm not up on all the stuff that is going on. Sure, there were things here and there that I was scratching my head like, wait, how does Oliver have this daughter? And I'm texting some friends who've been watching, okay, explain to me where this daughter came from and stuff like that. But beyond a few things, in terms of the actual story, I did just fine. And I don't feel like I had to go back and re-binge all of that stuff. And I was able to enjoy episodes 1 through 3 because it's a good enough, like, overall story that it just drew me in and it made sense and it flowed good. So I didn't feel like I had to have the full history of all the drama and all the stuff going on and all the shows leading up to that. So that was like a big positive for me. And I really did enjoy that. Brandon Routh. It's really cool to see him as, you know, Ray Palmer, the Atom. And I kind of always liked him as Ray Palmer, the Atom. But it's really cool to see his Ray Palmer, the Atom, and his Clark Kent standing there together. And I just like, it just showcases what a good actor he is. Superman Returns may not be my favorite movie, but he didn't get to play his own Superman. He was playing Christopher Reeve. And so he did a great job playing Christopher Reeve, but this just shows you his great acting ability to go right back to that kind of Christopher Reeve, Clark Kent, Superman portrayal, and Ray Palmer. So to see that contrast in his performance was really good, and I really did believe it was two different people from two different Earths all together. So like, things like that were really clever. It was cool to see Kevin Conroy live action and the cool twist they put on that. I'll dive into that in a second. But there was a lot of cool stuff that I was just like, yes! Like, I was just so excited to see that stuff. My biggest disappointment was the Smallville. That was my biggest disappointment. Going into this, I knew Tom Welling was only going to have like one scene. Like, I knew it. But as soon as they started talking about these paragons and the importance of these characters, and they arrive in Smallville, even though I knew it had to be just this one scene, and they show up, and he doesn't even have his powers anymore, and I'm just like, what?
You gave up your powers?
Can't say I've missed these chats.
No. One of the things that annoyed me so much about Smallville is, like, when they ran out of Freak of the Weeks and didn't have anything else to do, they just threw another episode in there where he lost his powers. He either lost them or he gave them up, took them back, blah, 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 blah. It was one of the most annoying things. And now, I've waited nearly a decade, and here he comes. I gave up my powers. Now, yes, it's sweet. He's married to Lois Lane. He has 2 daughters. If there's any reason for him to give up his powers, this was a good reason. And here's what I liked about seeing Tom Welling now. His Clark Kent was so much more at peace because he was kind of angsty throughout Smallville. There were moments where he would have peace with himself, but he just kept on wrestling. But that's also part of it. He's wrestling with his destiny. Who is he going to be? But it was kind of cool that even though I was frustrated, he wasn't Superman. I was frustrated that I got my hopes up that he was going to be a more and immediately got it dashed. He wasn't. He might be. We still haven't done episodes 4 and 5. But it was cool to see him at peace and comfortable in his own skin. So that was the huge positive to seeing this Clark, to see that he's happy with his wife, he's happy with his 2 daughters, to really see he's landed on his feet, and he's happy and he's at peace. That made me feel good to see this Smallville Clark Kent, Tom Welling there. But as a mega fan of Smallville, I wanted to see him in action. I mean, they didn't have to give him the super suit. The rule of the show was no flights, no tights. Put him in the motorcycle jacket or whatever that he was wearing in season 10 and just send him in. Like, I wanted at least one episode where I got to see him in action, and I'm sorry, I'm just disappointed that I didn't get to see it. I'm also disappointed with this Supergirl version of Lex Luthor.
I think it's time for you to... Still stronger.
Not only can he not hold a candle to Michael Rosenblum, I can't help but see 2.5 Men every time I see him. And I never liked 2.5 Men. And having not watched Supergirl since season 2 and never really seen him on the show, what I've seen of him in Crisis, he's just this annoying, sniveling little character, and it's driving me crazy. Just swat him off like a fly, and let's just continue on with the sheer epic stuff that's going on. Just come on.
You're not Lex.
Now, we all know, like, this is the end of Arrow in the Arrowverse, so we're saying goodbye to Oliver Queen. I was really surprised he died at the end of episode 1. It's interesting, because the way he died in episode 1 was so epic. The way he stayed on that rooftop, the way he yelled at the monitor, if the whole Earth is not yet evacuated, then the job's not done. And even though the monitor already beamed off all the other heroes and he was left alone, which I don't understand the Arrow that, paralyzed the monitor, which is like a god. I don't understand that, but whatever. It was cool. And I enjoyed seeing Oliver make his last stand. And the way he gave his life, like, I thought his lines were a little bit cornball as he was dying, but I thought if you're going to end it with Oliver Queen, that was kind of a cool way to do it. The slow motion shot of him dropping the arrow, running just full on into the mass of this crazy ghost-like alien army that was coming to destroy the quantum tower. Like, that was a cool way for him to go. And then you get into the next episode, and it's all about putting him in the Lazarus pit and trying to retrieve his soul as his body gets filled with all those other souls. It's like, I don't know if I needed that plot repeated, because I could have cared less about the White Canary and all that stuff she went through with the Lazarus pit. Don't need that repeated. But where that ended up going was kind of weird and kind of interesting. the fact that they went to purgatory, Lian Yu, which again meaning purgatory, so kind of a cool little double entendre there, but they go there to get him out of purgatory. And you have John Constantine there and all these characters there. And, you know, first off, the fact that Oliver's soul landing there, now all of a sudden his mind is squeegeed so he has no memories. Okay, interesting. It took them 2 seconds to jog his memories. I'm sorry, Oliver. I'm sorry I wasn't there for you and I didn't have your back. Oh, hi, John. Seriously? I mean, I know, we're running out of time. We don't have all the money in the world. Things gotta happen fast. But give me a bigger showdown. Like when Oliver first showed up and started knocking people out, like it was cool to see Arrow season 1 and 2 Oliver fighting that guerrilla warfare fighting style that he had. It was cool. Give me just at least another 60 seconds of that. But it looks like it's leading into something that's really interesting. Like, what is his destiny meeting that dude, eyes flashing green, and Oliver has a destiny to embrace, to not return to his body, but I'm curious, and I'm excited to see where they're going to go with this. It has some very good Kingdom Come vibes to me. Now, I don't know if the episode set it up this way on purpose, but they set up this incredibly interesting comparison to Kevin Conroy's Bruce Wayne and Brandon Routh's Clark Kent. And, you know, by the Superman symbol, this is the Kingdom Come Superman. But what I like about this Kingdom Come Superman is he mentioned his son Jason. So what does that mean? This is the Superman Returns, Superman Continued. What does that mean? It's Christopher Reeve's Superman getting to have that storyline continue on. And just kind of just the realization of that dawning on me, it just, my heart warmed up so much.
This is the second time I've gone nuts and fought myself.
That's a total reference to Superman 3. I am looking at the Christopher Reeve Superman getting more life in this whole Crisis on Infinite Earths thing. I think that's what I loved best about that. The comparison, though, is you have this Clark Kent, and he's lost everybody. He's lost more than what any mortal man could ever take. So he's this paragon of truth. And he's lost Lois, his love. He's lost Jimmy, his best friend. He's lost Perry White, his boss who respected him. And a whole wall full of names, full of loss. And he's lost. And even though Lex Luthor showed up to manipulate his mind, he's still so hopeful because of his stance on the truth. That the memory of those he's lost isn't something that drives him into pain and pulls him down, but because he loves them, he knows the truth that his memories of them, they would want him to be lifted up by those memories. Then you have the comparison of Kevin Conroy's Bruce Wayne, who says, fighting monsters long enough, you finally become a monster. And because he didn't have that truth, that darkness he was fighting, he became. That darkness he was raging against, he allowed in his heart and became the darkness that he fought. It reminds me of where Jesus said, the wise man is somebody who listens to my words and does them. They're like somebody who builds their house on a rock. When the storm and the rain comes, the house will stand. And then he said, the foolish man is the one who doesn't listen to what I have to say, so he builds his house on the sand. So when the storm and the wind and the rain come, the house falls. And now we have this picture in Crisis on Infinite Earths. Superman's solid foundation was the truth. And he allowed the truth to lift him up and give him hope, even in the face of the storms that he was going through. And I think he was going through worse storms than Kevin Conroy's Batman. But Kevin Conroy, having fought so much, his last words when he was dying after Kate kicked him and it broke his back, when he was dying, his last words are, there is no hope. And I love seeing that picture of what Jesus said illustrated with my two favorite heroes in this version of Crisis on Infinite Earth. The Kevin Conroy Batman built his house on the sand, and you have the paragon of truth, Brandon Routh Superman, who built his house on the solid foundation. He stood on the truth, and it lifted him up. And I loved that picture.
Hey, why'd you add black to it?
Because, Lois, even in the darkest times, hope cuts through. Hope is the light that lifts us out of darkness.
In episode 3, I enjoyed a lot of it. I've never watched Black Lightning, so this was my first introduction to the character of Black Lightning. And I gotta say, I might now have to go back and watch Black Lightning. I just really liked his character. I liked his attitude. Like, his Earth is destroyed, so his wife and his daughters are dead, and he's sad and he's broken up. But this is where he reminded me of the Brandon Routh Superman, talking to Barry Allen. Like, our dads didn't raise us to be quitters, so let's keep fighting. Like, that was an amazing attitude that this character had, and I like that kind of heart. So now I'm like, okay, all right, I might have to go on Netflix now and start binging Black Lightning. So good job, Crisis on Infinite Earths. You got me interested in a show that I just hadn't yet watched. So I thought it was really cool to be introduced to that character through Crisis on Infinite Earths and get to know him through this, and it was just really cool. The other thing that was cool was the John Wesley ship Flash. It was cool the way he took Barry's place to die in his place so Barry could go on living and go on living with Iris. The fact that a Flash had to disappear on the Crisis and John Wesley's ship chose to do it, and as he was running that whole machine in reverse, the way it cut back to a clip from that 1990-1991 Flash TV show. I've only seen the series premiere of that show. I haven't seen any other episodes, so I was unfamiliar with the clip it showed. Nonetheless, I felt the nostalgia of that, and it was very powerful for them to flash it back to that as this Barry Allen gives his life to save the Barry Allen we've come to know. So I thought that was really, really cool. But what ticked me off, how much have I not just now raved about Brandon Routh as Superman? The way episode 3 ended, and the annoying Lex Luthor wrote in the Book of Destiny and took his place. I mean, for me, they just cut out a major draw for me to come back. I can't stand that Lex Luthor, and they took out the best Superman I think I've seen in all of the Arrowverse shows just to bring on the worst Lex Luthor I think I've seen in all of the Arrowverse shows. I realize we got 2 episodes left. I realize that. And now with 2 episodes left and all the Earths destroyed from all the infinite universes, we got some big things coming. So we have not seen the last of that Brandon Routh Superman. So yes, I'm going to come back. I'm just saying that was incredibly irritating because they took away something I wanted to see more of and gave me something I don't want to see anymore. What did you think of Crisis on Infinite Earths episodes 1 through 3? Like I said, I'm giving it a B-. For me, it's a little bit above average, kind of close to that average line, but I am enjoying myself. That B- might lower or get higher depending on what we do with the last 2 episodes that we'll get to after Christmas. So what did you think? Let's talk about that in the comments. And while you're there, hit the subscribe button to become a Durbanian. Hit that bell by the subscribe button so you're notified the next time I do a movie review, ranking video, theological analysis, or anything else I do here. I'm Durbin. Thanks for checking out Durbania.